Welcome, my name is Buechsel. I work for VMware in our Cork office as a technical support engineer for the German language support team. I was actually under the impression that I had a little bit more time today, so this is more like a primer to the deep dive I usually give on VMdir. I will talk a bit about the GUI frontends, the actual replication that's going on in SSO, and if we have the time, also talk a bit about the performance impacts that you can have if your SSO is a bit messed up. So for the GUI frontends, we actually do have 3 frontends VMware likes us to use to interact with SSO. The first one would be a normal LDAP browser, like JExplorer. SSO under the hood, VMdir is an LDAP style schema. So you can use JExplorer to actually connect to VMdir, and it is the lowest level of configuration you can actually touch in SSO. So if you do not have GSS on the line assisting, or you just want to poke around, make sure that you do not change any settings, especially the delete key should be a no-go in all ways without a prior backup of SSO. I've seen people really destroy SSO with that, and destroy beyond repair, even after a backup. And this is basically what it looks like. You do plunge in your LDAP style address of vSphere.local, and then the username and password of administrator and the password of administrator at vSphere.local. And then you really have the nitty-gritty down level of identity source configuration, solution user, solution groups. You have your SSO internal users, SSO internal groups, all in an LDAP style schema that you can modify. You can add certificates in there, etc. if you wanted to. What we actually prefer to do though is, especially for that types of configuration, to use a GUI-based approach, which in our case would be the web client. Most of the important administration tasks can actually be done via the web client. You will be able to modify solution users, SSO internal users and groups. You can edit and add identity sources to SSO, and also edit the password policies. And I think everyone knows the web client by now. If not, you should get used to it. It definitely has a future. And try the beta 6 for it. There is at least a performance improvement for it as well. You'll notice a speed improvement. There is a third interface that can be used, especially during troubleshooting and when you're manually replacing certificates within SSO, and that would be the SSO-LS CLI. It's basically a GUI front end for the lookup service. Each component that actually registers in SSO and can be displayed via the web client has to register with the lookup service. This can be done manually, and also can be done to repair broken certificate deployments to get them back into a working state. And you can also register and unregister services and solution users in here. And this is basically what it looks like. Each service is registered via a service ID. You've got the site name, a colon, and then a very long hexadecimal number to uniquely identify the services. You've got some sort of description and a service endpoint, which usually is just the SDK URL of that service. One of the actual real main features that were new in SSO 5.5 is the Multimaster replication. For everyone who had to set up a multi-site installation in 5.1 that included more than 2 sites, knew that you had to export configuration data, import it, install everything, export it again, import on the first site, and then you were playing Towers of Hanoi the more sites you had. That is all gone with the Multimaster application. We are kind of like Active Directory in that regard, but without the full mesh functionality. So we do inter and intrasite replication, It doesn't matter if you're choosing high availability or multi-site installation during the installer, it will always replicate, but it will not put in place a full mesh replication agreement. So if you have 3 sites, and I will show this in just a second, then you will have one default replication agreement with that partner site, and it's bidirectional at default. Replication actually does happen every 30 seconds, and the stuff that gets replicated are solution users and service registrations. So basically, if one SSO node goes down in VPXD CFG, you can simply put in the other SSO node, restart the service, and everything works within a second. You do not even need to repoint the service. And also SSO internal users and groups are actually replicated, so are password policies. And again, it is very like Active Directory. It uses USNs to have the replication going, and that also means that in a multi-site installation, restoring a very old snapshot is actually a no-no. You shouldn't do that. That messes up all the internal IDs. We are using 2 ports for replication. We prefer to use port 11712, which is LWS-based replication. If we cannot establish a secure tunnel, we will fall back to port 11711, which will be clear text replication. Passwords are still hashed and encrypted. They will never be given out in clear text over that channel. And this is where the replication agreements are actually stored in VMdir. So if you have a very large and complex installation, you can actually, with the information in there, draw out the map on how the system was installed originally. If you, for example, have a centralized deployment with a lot of branch offices, for one SSO server you will see all the replication agreements for the branch, and on the branches you will only be able to see the replication to the central node. And with a little bit of LDAP magic, you can actually plunge the full mesh replication in there. But again, this should be done with the VMware technical support and not on your own. Even messing that up can completely destroy SSO. I've seen it happen. It's not fun to get out of it afterwards. Yeah, and if we want to go through an actual example, if we start our operation in Palo Alto, it is our main office. It's very important. We will install our first SSO server, and because it's important, we are choosing to do the HA deployment, which means we are deploying 2 SSO nodes in active-passive behind the load balancer, and then register all vCenter components, VCAC, whatever we like, and can use SSO against the actual load balancer. We then expand our operation to Cork, open a support office in there, and since support is also very, very important, we are doing the same thing over there. We are first installing the 3rd node in a multi-site install option, so the 3rd installation option, to replicate between Cork and Palo Alto. And then we are also introducing the load balancer concept in here, so we are adding a 2nd node in HA style against that 1st node in Cork. Then we decide to go to Bavaria, to Munich, to open our sales office in there. It's a small startup office, so it won't need any scale out or failover capacity. Sales can simply pick up the phone if they don't have the rep portal. So we only need 1 SSO node in there. And here it's actually dependent on which partner node we are giving this site, because we will only get 1 replication agreement by default. So in this example, we are choosing our replication site to be Cork, and then we are getting the replication agreement between Cork and Munich. Replication will still happen between Palo Alto and Munich, but for that to happen, it's like with your storage, at least 1 path needs to be up. So if both SSO nodes in Cork are down, no replication will actually happen in Munich. And the next thing I'd like to illustrate is the actual replication. I said that the replication cycle is 30 seconds, but it can take up to 1 or 2 minutes. And that's very easy to explain because of the USNs. It is a pull operation in that regard, that the nodes will check for updates and then pull the updates. Updates do not get automatically pushed to a node. So if we change the password for that user in Palo Alto, for example, the USN will increase, and now it's Munich's turn to actually pull the information. It will pull from Cork. Cork did not notice the change yet, so therefore nothing will happen. Then Cork will actually at some point in time pull from Palo Alto, and it now will know the change. Everything gets updated, it's Munich's turn again, and bam, Munich also gets the last replication cycle. So it actually goes out in waves and can take more than one full replication cycle to replicate changes through the whole SSO installation. For troubleshooting, the most part that I've seen in GSS is actually firewall and DNS. If you happen to reinstall your stuff a lot, it's also a lot of partner certificates that we are seeing, and not having a replication agreement in place can also be hindering replication from going on. And what you can actually do to remediate it, if it's a cert issue, you simply delete the partner cert, it will be pulled again. And you can also copy it over. And if you don't have a replication agreement in place, then you simply open a support request and GSS will actually support you into getting that replication agreement in there. And I think with that, the time is up. I'd still like to add one more thing for performance impact, and that is, this is actually the large number of trusted domains is actually the biggest performance hit that we've seen. If you've got very, very many Active Directory domains, then logins can take a long time. An immediate workaround is to add those users to SSO groups. And that check can get skipped and get you from 2 minutes down to 10 seconds again.